All right, we're on. Is Armored Saint still opening for Wasp?
Yes.
They are? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Death Angel is supposed to, and then whatever happened there. I think the singer is doing a thing with Kerry King. Okay. And so then I think the band found out about that the same way everybody else found out about it. And then that caused a little heat between the boys. And the next thing you know, they're off the tour and Armored Saint was on. And Armored Saint actually opened for them last time they came around when they did a tour.
Yeah, they were at least around. I don't know how far that tour made it. They were supposed to play here, and Armored Saint was going to open, and I was going to go, and then whatever, it was Blackie's back or something. They canceled.
Yeah, he broke his back, I think.
Yeah,
from what I heard.
Been there,
but yeah, you said he had like a bionic back or something like that, or a neck.
I have a bionic neck, but I also broke my back during a match, which
fucking hey.
That was a fun time. Yeah.
Oh man. I want to ask you real quick about and I don't expect you to put him on blast or anything, but like you were trained by Dean Malenko, and I kind of hear like mixed stories about him or opinions. I was just wondering like if he was cool to you, and you don't have to answer that, but
no, absolutely. Okay. Well, don't let me forget that I actually have a funny Dean story that I was saving for tonight.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Dean was cool with me. I love Dean. He was, I can't say a bad thing about him. He trained me. He helped me to fulfill my dreams. I wanted to wrestle since I was a little kid. When I was growing up, I was, instead of reading the books, I was stacking them up and then jumping off of the top of the bunk bed and hitting Macho Man elbow drops and stuff like that. And just, going there and training with him and getting to learn the business, getting to learn, the technique and everything. Because pound for pound, I think he was always one of the best technical wrestlers in the business. And that's always what he taught me. And I would say, with the exception of maybe one or two times where he got pissed at me because I wasn't doing something right, or was just being like, to him, he was just like, gosh damn, you're just not getting this. What's wrong with you? But other than that, he was cool with me. But I've heard the stories, like I've heard people like Stevie Richards, Rene Dupree, some of like the mid-card guys who were in WWE when he was an agent. I know they've had some things to say about him, but I've never experienced that because he was my trainer, and I don't think I was ever in a position at any point where I had to work with him in that sort of capacity, where he was responsible for, like, if the match was bad, he would get heat for it or anything like that. So it was just a different experience for me being a student of his as opposed to somebody who's working with him professionally. But I know some guys don't like him, other guys do. But my story was, so I ran into him like a week or two ago, and I was at the supermarket, and I'm wheeling my cart around and all that, and I see this guy come out of the bathroom, and he's on one of the motorized scooters, and I was like, that's Dean. He looks real old, but that's Dean. And then he rolls past me, and I can see, because he back in the day had a big neck surgery, and he has a huge cervical incision on the back of his neck, so you can tell it's like a dead giveaway whenever you see him. So I tried to catch up to him, and then my stupid cart got stuck, like one of the wheels stuck, and I couldn't move the cart, so I had to move like my waters and all that. And I probably then should have said, okay, that's a sign that this wasn't meant to happen. Saw him later, he was doing something at the pharmacy. I saw him later, he was on the phone. And then I just said, screw it. I'm just going to go check out and go home and call, just take the L. But then I get outside, and I said to myself, you're never going to get a chance to see him again, probably. It's been 27 years. You're probably never going to get another 26 years to see him again. Just go, however awkward this is going to be, just go up and say hi to him and try to thank him. So I go up. He's at the deli waiting in line. So I tap him on the shoulder. Hey, Dean, I don't know if you remember me, but my name is Dan. I trained with you back in the day. And he says, I don't really remember anything that I did 2 days ago. Dean's got a very dry sense of humor, so you cannot tell if he's joking or not. And then he goes, "Yeah, I got Parkinson's 10 years ago. I don't remember anything I did 2 days ago." And then it got very awkward. And it was just a very, I said, "Oh, okay." And then they called him up to the deli, and I just kind of politely excused myself and just, thanked him for his time. And that was, and then I felt sad because he's, from what I hear, he's doing good, but he has his good days and his bad days. And I guess he had some sort of surgery. And I'm not telling any tales out of school here because he's talked about it openly. I guess he went in Jericho's podcast and he talked about his battles with it and everything like that. So I'm not like outing him or anything. And I even legitimately looked online to make sure because I didn't want to like go mention any of this to anybody in a public setting and then have it be like he's been privately battling this, and then this douchebag who trained with him 2 decades ago like kind of outs him and all that sort of stuff. But no, he was, it sucks, but what can you do? That got Muhammad Ali, so it can get get the greatest. But
I hadn't seen it. I don't think I'd seen him in like 20 years, and he was on AEW TV for some little angle or something. It was just like, oh my gosh, he's old. And he wasn't in a wheelchair or anything then, but the tremors were visible and
but he was always cool with me. I never had any problems with him. And again, he's the guy who got me into the business. So I couldn't have a bad thing to say about him. He's just funny. He was a funny guy, when just very dry sense of humor. And I mentioned, not to be all story time with Dan or whatnot, but like one time, one of my buddies, my roommate, who I had my first match with him, this guy, C4, his name was Dave, but he introduced himself as C4 because everybody in the wrestling business is a weirdo, including myself. So he even, like, the first day I met him, it wasn't, "Hey, I'm Dave, nice to meet you. And I'm Dan." It was, "I'm C4. It's like, okay.
That's a legit name. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
hello, C4.
That's a good drink.
Yeah, your mom named you C and your middle name was 4. Okay, I get it. It's kind of odd, but whatever. So one day they were all at the school. This is the day I wasn't there. And Dave convinces Dean to put him in the Texas Cloverleaf. So Dean gets ready. He's got Dave on his back, and he's got his legs splayed. And Dave wants to take a picture of this, of course, because Dave, again, the whole weirdo thing in wrestling. So as Dean gets him like this, and they get ready to snap the picture, Dean just does one of these. Like kind of straddles over him. And so Dave comes back a couple weeks later with the developed photo, and he gives it to Dean because now, of course, he wants it autographed. So Dean writes on it, "Thanks for the good time, Joe Malenko." I know Joe. Go ahead.
I don't know. Obviously, I've never been inside the business like you, but I get the impression that those kind of like mark picks are pretty frowned upon, especially when you're like trying to be a wrestler.
A little bit, I think to a point, some of the guys understand it, but it was just one of those things where it's like, of course you asked for an autograph. And then he showed me that. And if you've ever, I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Malenko, Dean's brother.
Yeah.
But he's not a man to be trifled with. They're both legit shooters. Like, I think they're both trained by Carl Gotch, if I'm not mistaken, but like legit badasses. And Joe's like a badass dude. He's a sheriff's deputy down here, and he's also a pharmacist. But I think Dean thought better of what he did that day, and he comes up to Dave and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna need that picture back." That's something he did on his brother to find out that he's putting "Thanks for the good time, Joe Malenko," as he's sitting there. Looks like he's about to have some relations with one of his students. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, so it doesn't sound as brutal as like Gene or Ole Anderson, because I heard those guys are pretty rough.
No, there was only one time where I would say Dean kind of enforced his will with any of the students there, and that was we had one of the Japanese guys that was there, because when I got there, it was kind of the tail end of Malenko's school, like its run was ending, because Dean and Joe took over for his dad. They had a revolving door of people that would help train the students at various times. And back in the day when it was really hopping, they would always have all the international students. They'd get a lot of people come over from Japan because the Malenko name is so big over there. But when I was there, we only had one guy, this one dude, Ruji. And he was a bit of a bully. And he would kind of bully guys because he had a legit shoot background, martial arts background, and all that. And if you didn't, and that's kind of the nature of the Japanese wrestling, is that they'll try to eat you alive, and if you don't if you don't stand up for yourself, then that's what'll happen to you. And that's what they always tell people before they go over there, is you gotta give it back to them, because if you don't, then they're gonna eat you alive, and you're gonna have a rough go at it. So he was doing that one day, and then Dean gets on. He's in the ring with him, and he's wrestling him, and he's grappling him on the ground and everything. And next thing you know, he gives him an oil check, which I don't know if I have to describe what an oil check is, but he just.
I think you told the story in one of your videos, right?
Yeah,
I have an idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So he just kind of goes, and you see Ruji scoot across the ring like he was shot out of a cannon. And Dean just kind of looks up, and Dean goes, stinky pinky. And it's moments like that where you see the guy on TV, and then you see this, and you're just like, what?
What the hell business am I in?
Yeah, how did I wind up here? But yeah, it was. Yeah, but no, he was cool. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about him.
That's awesome, man. Sky, I think I cut you off. What were you? I think you were trying to say something.
Oh,
Sorry.
If so, I don't remember what it was, so don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. I'm in the clear.
Yeah, I guess I got you blown up on the big screen there, Dan. Do you want to talk about like kind of how you got into wrestling, or
sure,
or how you became a fan, or what you were into at the time, and then how that led into you getting into wrestling?
Well, when I was a kid, we grew up with a satellite dish, and I grew up with WWF, NWA. We'd get the later version of AWA, which is like Rick Martel when he was champion, kind of like that era. And then later in life, I got into. I didn't really know an indie until I got into the business. I didn't really know what indies were, and I just loved it. I mean, from one of my first memories of wrestling was watching Sergeant Slaughter and Kamala work with each other, and it was just nothing special about it. It was just that was two guys I remember from an early childhood. And then probably one of the first things I remember was seeing Paul Orndorff turn on Hogan. I was outside playing in the yard, but I was watching through the window. I was watching the show and I see Orndorff hit him with a short arm clothesline. I was like, oh, nice, because I always loved it. I didn't grow up a Hulkamaniac or anything like that, so it was always cooler to watch like Bobby Heenan and his family always fighting with him, and then to see Orndorff, turn heel on him. That was kind of cool. But so I just watched it, just grew up on it. I think I've told the story. The Road Warriors are probably my favorite. They were the ones who legit got me. That's probably where I caught the bug for wrestling, because just the presentation of it, the whole their look, the coming out to the ring with Black Sabbath, because even as a little kid I was into a little hard rock and heavy metal, and then just seeing them destroy people. It's something that it tapped into everything as a child in my brain that it could have, as far as like growing up as a kid watching like friggin' He-Man and horror movies, and then of course watching wrestling. It was just like all those things kind of coalesced together, and I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, without doing the but So I got into it. That's when I decided that's what I wanted to do. I want to do that. I want to be like Hawk and Animal. So I watched it over the years. Fell out of love with it for a little while because at one point in my life it wasn't cool to be into wrestling. So when I started getting a little bit older and getting to middle school and all that, and then got back into it, and then I got into college, and I decided because after I graduated high school, I was kind of spinning my wheels, and the way I was raised, my family, it was either you had the option of either go to college or you go to the military. And I didn't really want to do either, but I said, I'll go to college and I'll do a couple of years there. I'll try to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So while I was there, I ran into a guy at the gym, and he was there working out, and he was doing like ridiculous, like these weird sets where he was like just going like 9,000 miles an hour. And I said, hey bro, you might want to slow down a little bit. And he's like, oh no. And then some jacked up dude was telling him how to do all this stuff. I was like, all right, fair enough. He looks better than I do. So don't pay any attention to anything I say. So we got talking, and it turned out that he was trying to get into wrestling. So he handed me this old pamphlet that back in the PWIs back in the day, Jim Cornette and Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer, they used to have a little pamphlet that was called How to Enter the Exciting World of Pro Wrestling. And it was just this little like zine thing. And it would tell you how to get into it, what to expect, all the schools, all the different jobs that you could have that weren't wrestling, wasn't actual in-ring stuff. And so it said, read it once, then read it again, then read it a third time. So I read it 4 times. And they said, if you're still interested, go to the back. Here's all the schools you can call. And for me, it was between going to Dean's, it was going to Killer Kowalski School in Massachusetts, or going to the Exotic Adrian Streets School, which was in Gulf Breeze, which is in the I think it's up in the northern. It's closer to the panhandle of Florida, but I think it's up in that area of Florida. It's a lot northern than Tampa is. And I chose Dean's because Kowalski's Massachusetts is way too expensive, even back then. So I didn't want to go there. So that's how I wound up getting into the business. And then I spent about a year, maybe like 14 months down here. Moved back up north and wound up in Massachusetts anyway, because that's where I got my first bookings, besides a couple of my debut shows and stuff like that. And then I was kind of off to the races, and I didn't really have a good run in NWA New England. And I ended up coming back here trying to refocus my energies and all that sort of thing, and try and get back on the right track. And then I did, and then I left the business for a little while because that's a whole other story that I won't get into at the time. Right now, that's too long a story. I don't want to take up all the energy here, like talking and just babbling on for an hour and a half. But yeah. And then I got back into it, and I wrestled for a few years, and then in 2015 I got hurt. No, 2013, excuse me. I should know that. December 1st, 2013. I had a match, a little small spot show. And towards the end of the match, I got gassed. And the finish was we were going to do a Michinoku driver, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with what a Michinoku driver is, but it's a variant of a for anybody who's not familiar with it, a Michinoku driver, it's a variant of a body slam. But it's kind of like a combination of a body slam and a brainbuster suplex, where the majority of the impact is landing on your upper shoulders and not quite your neck area, because anything with wrestling, you try not to land on your head. Yeah, it happens. We all get dinged and concussed and all that sort of stuff. It's part of the business. But I went up really, really heavy, and when I came down, I went down even heavier, hurt a little, and a lot of pain. And we did the finish, 1, 2, 3, and that was the finish. And I got to the back, and I walked around for a couple of days, and it was kind of like, I was in a little bit of pain, and my buddies who I was living with at the time, they're like, Dan, you feel all right? I was like, man, my spine hurts. And they're like, yeah, you landed pretty hard. And I've told this story before, but it's kind of funny, just kind of give you the mindset of pro wrestlers and what a bunch of weirdos. Again, we're all a bunch of weirdos. I did this happen. It turns out I broke my back. I broke the T7 vertebrae in my back. I had a hairline fracture. And then long story short, they saw my neck was jacked up. So I ended up having to get neck surgery. And so I have C6 and C7 fused together. And that's why I joke about the bionic neck thing. That's the origin story of the bionic neck. But when I landed, my buddy Mike, my old tag partner, he looked around the room and our other roommate who was there, who was wrestling on the show, he goes, "Well, Dan's dead. They don't want a room." And then they all felt really bad a couple days later when they found out that I was like seriously hurt. And I was like, "No, that was hilarious." I said that you told me that I was howling. Like, I thought that was the funniest thing you could have said, but then they felt bad. But I was like, "No, I don't care."
It's so weird seeing like drop on your head moves like that, because sometimes it looks just like so horrific, like, oh my god, that guy's dead, and then he's fine. But then, a little millimeter this way or that way, and then you're really fucked up.
Yeah.
Dude, every time I see a brain buster, that's why I'm thinking like, oh, he got jacked up, and then they show up the next week perfectly fine. Like, how the God bless them, I guess.
I've taken so many crazy, I didn't like wrestle every day of my life. Like I did when I was training. When I did that, I would wrestle like 3-4 matches a night at the school that nobody's ever seen. Probably the best matches I've ever had. Nobody's, they've just been at the school training with other people. But you do stuff like that. I've taken running power bombs and all sorts of crazy moves like that, and everything was fine. But it was just one of those things. It happens. Accidents happen. And it was one of those deals where, I was kind of bitter for a couple of years because I kind of felt like, it's like anybody who gets hurt, you're like, it's not my time. But it was like, no, it was, and it is. And, figure something else out. And I tried to get coaching gigs and tried to do like commentary stuff with some of the local promotions down here, and nothing ever really panned out. I think the closest thing I did was I did a referee's gig when I was on the road with my buddies, and the referee didn't show up for whatever reason. And they're like, "Dan, what size are you?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What size shirt do you wear?" I was like, "Oh, I usually 2X, but why?" And they said, "Well, we've got an extra large referee shirt. Can you ref tonight?" I said, "Yeah, what match do you do?" They said, "The whole show." Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Nice.
And it was fun. There's a video floating out there somewhere, but I hate it because I was carrying a lot of I've been stuck in a back brace for 3 months weight, so I was all chubby and plump in the center. So I didn't really, wearing those zebra stripes, they didn't really suit me. But I'm babbling a little bit. I feel like I've talked way too much.
No, that's all right. Before we move on, do you actively watch stuff now? And if so, like what are you into?
I do. I watch what I can because I did the whole cut and the cord thing probably about 2 years ago. But I do try to watch as much clips and stuff like that as I can. I actually watched a few things just to kind of be abreast of everything for talking tonight. But as far as guys I like nowadays, like I'll watch WWE, I'll watch a little NXT, watch some AEW, try to keep up on that a little bit. As far as the guys who I really like, Jacob Fatu, I think he's great. Rick Steiner's son, he's great. I think.
Oh, Braun Breaker.
Yeah.
Braun Breaker. Yeah, dude, he's my favorite.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I liked Walter for a little while, but I don't know. I think it's weird since he lost all the weight that he lost. He looks like he should be selling real estate. He just doesn't look like.
Yeah, I agree. I liked him bigger.
Whatever it was, he doesn't have it anymore. I don't know.
I like Walter, not Gunther.
Yeah. But
It's
but
when he takes a bump, it just looks super awkward. Like we were talking about the Brain Buster, so it was one of the pay-per-views he did with Sami Zayn recently. I think he lost the match, I'm pretty sure. But he took that that I don't know what the move is called that Sammy does. I really don't care about watching him, but he did this move where it was kind of like a brain buster off the rope. And I think they jumped on the turnbuckles.
that
And
corner brain
then
buster that he does.
yeah, but the way that Gunther landed, it looked super bad. And then the match ended up. I think it ended like right after that, so I assumed, yeah, they probably fucked him up and gave him the X, and then he showed up the next day perfectly fine. So I'm like, again, one of those things with the brain buster, you never know until you see him the next day. But
I don't
carry on.
myself a safety nerd, but I think that move should be no, don't do that move anymore.
The one that
I'm kind of with you.
To Will Ospreay recently, and he didn't quite hit the turnbuckle, so he scraped his back all the way down.
Shit! It could have
been way worse. It was just like an abrasion, but it's like, yeah, maybe don't do that one anymore.
I'm honestly surprised they let Generico do that because I haven't seen him use that in WWE in a long time. I don't think I've ever seen him use. I haven't seen him use that since Ring of Honor. And
I haven't either. I didn't see that match, so I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's been. I don't think I could ever recall him doing that move while he's been in WWE. So I was surprised when I saw he broke that one out. I was like, they let him do that one, huh? That's kind of a. I guess they're really loosening standards there a little bit, but yeah. So Scott, you went to All Out or All In? Which one was that?
Yeah, All Out.
And
it's confusing now because All In was the original show, and then they didn't have the rights to it, so it changed to All Out. But now they have the rights again, so now they have All In and All Out. But yeah, so my son and I went to All Out, and it was fucking great, man. It was an awesome time. AEW is not perfect for sure, but I think more often than not, you can count on the pay-per-views delivering, and it's just basically. Besides one of the women's matches, it's like top to bottom, it was just an awesome show. And we got to see the cage match between Hangman and Swerve with the chair shot that all the safety nerds cried about. But
oh fuck, I'm gonna have to watch that.
It was a blood feud where one guy invaded the other guy's house, and then the other guy burned down the other guy's house. Like they wanted to fucking kill each other, and that's how they wrestled the match. So I don't know. I feel like everything doesn't have to be for children, and if that makes you uncomfortable, fucking don't watch it. But yeah, just a great show. Pac and Will Ospreay was wrestling wise was the match of the night, but yeah, that cage match was freaking awesome. So very glad we went.
We have to watch highlights of that.
Oh, sorry, Dan. What?
No, I was going to say, so I hear a lot about all the dwindling crowd sizes and all that, the attendance. How was that? Is that like a legit thing or?
This show, the ticket sales were looking really bad leading up to it, but the last week, I think because of the Hangman Swerve stuff, I don't know if it was quite a sellout. If not, it was close. It felt full. 9,000 to 10,000 people, I guess, which is about the capacity of that building. So. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, week to week, their attendances have been pretty concerning. But
I've seen a couple of times where it looks like they're bringing the ramp and all that stuff a little bit closer and closer to the ring. I try to give them a little, not that my opinion matters, but I always try to give them a little leeway because sometimes they'll show shots of the crowd, and you can see that clearly the side that's really a lot smaller is the hard cam side, which I think should be expected. But right. I almost legitimately went and looked at some Attitude Era stuff to see if there was how the hard cam side looked from back then as opposed to today. But I think it just is what it is. Attendance is down. People aren't into it as much. And
yeah, I think. I mean, I think AEW is cold. There's no denying it. I mean, you can't sell tickets. You're cold. And WWE is not. They're doing great. For our show, I bought tickets on the hard can side, kind of thinking that like, oh, they'll be if there's nobody there, then we'll have plenty of room to stretch out over here.
Sure.
But it ended up filling up. Yeah, and the whole attendance thing, like, I feel like there's this will kind of tie into the shitty, like, you know, grifter podcast YouTube videos. All the hand wringing about, oh, they're not selling tickets and they're not making money and they're going to go out of business. And Tony Khan is a fucking wrestling message board poster. He's going to keep this thing going just out of spite. It's not going away. And he's not my friend, so I don't care if he makes money. I generally like the product, so it's going to stay on TV, so I don't fucking give a shit how much money they make. Like, this whole, like, weird kind of tribal thing of counting attendances and counting gates, and, like, I'm not a member of the McMahon family. I'm not a member of the Khan family. Those gates don't fucking mean nothing to me, so what do I care? Like,
Sure.
I don't know. It's like a way for people to dunk on each other, and I just think it's super, like,
it's like Xbox versus PlayStation.
Yeah, it's
just pretty much that type of, you know, dynamic.
Yeah. What? Sorry, I had a cat break in here. I'll just go quick about, like, how, you know, me getting into wrestling. I started it with the NWA, or I guess you'd say Jim Crockett. The Worldwide Wrestling syndicated show. My buddy had seen it, and he came over and we watched it. And the main event was Arn Anderson versus Wahoo McDaniel for the TV title.
Okay.
Probably not a great match, but I thought it was fucking awesome. So I was hooked since then, and I was definitely more an NWA WCW guy than a WWF guy. But, you know, then, as you said, you get older and it's not cool. You don't watch for a while. And then it was really ECW that kind of dragged me back in. We didn't have the TV here, but I'd heard about it. I worked at a bar at the time, and we had one of those old giant satellite dishes on the roof. And I'm flipping through the guide one day, and I was like, ECW, it's on at like freaking 2 a.m. on a Saturday. So I closed the bar early. Kicked everybody out, and I sat there and watched ECW on their satellite dish, and I was like, "Yeah, this is the shit." So that's how I got
hardcore TV.
Yep. It was like early '96, I think, was the first episode I saw, and then I started tape trading and buying tapes and stuff like that. So went to one show at the ECW arena that was freaking awesome. That's probably can't be topped. That's probably going to be the best wrestling show I ever saw, just because of. I'm in the fucking bingo hall, man. Like, it was just the atmosphere was just amazing, and the fans and everybody's going crazy. And
do you remember who headlined the show?
Yeah, it was Sabu and Rob Van Dam in a stretcher match.
Okay. Yep.
Is that where Sabu like smacked his fucking ankle right on the steel rail?
Yeah. I believe so. I mean,
I think it was Sabu that did that.
I think he did do that there.
That month.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite matches.
The other big deal on that show was it was Tommy Dreamer and a mystery partner against Taz and Brian Lee.
Yeah.
And it was one of those mystery partners where if you'd been watching wrestling for more than 2 weeks, you knew it was Dr. Death.
Right.
Yep. And it had to be Dr. Death. And it was Dr. Death. And just that kind of surprise where it's not really a surprise, but when fucking Dr. Death comes out, everybody's like, oh, fuck yeah, Dr. Death. So that was like the other kind of big event at that show. But
then eventually that lead to, not to get all sidetracked, right? But then that ended up leading to, then they brought in Doc and Gordy together, and then they did some stuff with the Eliminators and
Gordy had been there. I think that was kind of the lead in. It was Gordy he had a match with Raven months before that, and then that was the big tease. It was like Gordy knew a partner for Tommy Dreamer, and it was like, oh geez, who could it be? I don't think it's Michael Hayes. So Yeah, I just kind of fast forward then. I kind of WWF, like, I fell out of it when it kind of became WWE, and I just kind of watched sporadically. But it was one of those that I would tape it and hate watch it every week, just like fast forwarding through it.
Good.
And I started watching when New Japan had their like syndicated show on Access. I started watching that. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then they showed the Kenny Omega and Okada match, the first match. And then I was like, oh, I got to see more of this. Then I subscribed to New Japan, and I was like, I watch every New Japan show. So I follow New Japan and AEW basically now. WWE, I really don't. I didn't watch WrestleMania this year, so that's kind of where I'm at.
I like to refer to myself as the Forrest Gump of pro wrestling because I feel like I'm always like a degree removed from all these various people, and to the point where I get kind of like self-conscious where like people like asking like, how the hell did you not make it? And you know all of these people. I did a show with Okada when he was doing his excursion. What's that?
When he was Okado?
I don't know if he did that or not, but he was just this Japanese guy who was on the show, and they were telling me that he's here from Japan, he's doing his excursion, and then they explained to me the whole thing about when they bring the guys over here, they send them to the States, they have them do some stuff, learn the American style, and basically the whole purpose of the visit or the trip is so they go back to their home country and go be a big star. So they were like, yeah, just so keep your eye out for this guy because he's going to be a big star when he goes back to Japan. And it turned out to be Okada. And I didn't know him from Adam. I obviously didn't speak to him, but they were all, he was just on we were at a softball field. They were working a show there, and we were all just crammed into the back, like in the office, like rats and sardines, and and that was him. That was Okada, and then that was the guy who became like this big, huge honking deal in Japan,
right?
The Rainmaker and all that.
It's weird, yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about the Young Bucks. I could probably guess, but
yeah.
Oh,
did that say enough?
When we were all out, obviously, they're heels now, and everybody's booing them, and my son and I were just cheering them up, just obnoxiously, just being absolute dicks.
Oh my god!
And at a very quiet point in the match, I screamed out, "Thank you for creating this company for us!" And it actually got people to laugh, so that was fun.
Nice.
But when Okada was in TNA, he really didn't speak any English, and he was just kind of a job guy. He wasn't like Samoa Joe's like pin eater or something. And then they wanted him to blade, and he never bladed before. And he was like scared, and he didn't know how to, refuse. And the Young Bucks were there, and they were nobodies then too. And they were they kind of stuck up for him. It was like, fucking no, this guy's not doing that. And that's how they became friends. And then years later, that's how they got into New Japan, because Okada remembered, and it's like, oh, these guys are cool, So
I don't know that.
It's kind of a neat little.
That is nice.
You never know.
Yeah.
All right, Trevor. I'm sorry. We've both been babbling. Let's give you a chance. How'd you get? I'm
entertained. I got into it through a video game. I don't even know whose house I went to. This was in, I think, '96. So I was 5 or 6 years old, and this dude was playing WWF WrestleMania. So I had Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Doink the Clown. But my favorite on there was Bam Bam Bigelow, and he would become eventually one of my favorite wrestlers just because he was so big and agile. But he had like this, if you guys have ever played that game, it's basically an arcade style game like Mortal Kombat. So it's just like over the top brutal moves, and his special was he would do this frog splash, but he's on fire while doing it. And when he lands on you, you both melt through the ring. I thought that was super. Yeah, I thought that was super cool. And of course, Undertaker on there too. He's a favorite of mine. But yeah, him and and Bam Bam. And then I started watching in about 90, I want to say 96, but I was kind of getting in trouble whenever it was on. So by 97, my parents kind of just gave up and let me start watching it. And I started watching when Undertaker and Kane were starting their feud. And by 98, when I saw King of the Ring, that Hell in a Cell match, that's when I became like a total fanatic. Because it even took a couple of years to really comprehend what had happened in that match. But yeah, I kind of started checking out. Actually, I remember the episode where I did check out was I think it was in 2007 when Edge and Lita had that fucking that like sex scene in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
That's I pretty much tapped out right there, and I skipped the whole CM Punk era because I never liked that guy. And I came back, I think 2016, and they were having Goldberg squashing Brock Lesnar, so I disappeared again. And actually, past couple of years, I've been keeping up. So I do currently keep up with it because I do like pretty much anything with a Braun in it. Braun Breaker, Braun Strowman, the what's his name, the Bronson Reed, the guy that's feuding with Braun Strowman. That's all entertaining me. Like Braun Breaker, as I mentioned to Dan, that dude's like, he's got all like, he has a ton of rage. He's extremely quick. He runs, I think, 24, 25 miles an hour. He's just a physical freak. He could talk, and he's got super athleticism, especially. I don't really watch NXT, so I didn't see too much of him there. I don't know if he did this move in NXT, but I don't even remember who it was. It might have been Ricochet that was sitting up on the top turnbuckle, and Braun Breaker just runs up the turnbuckles, wraps his legs around Ricochet's neck, and does a backflip and tosses Ricochet like across the ring. I'm like, holy shit. Because you look at him, you're like, there's no way he could do that. Yeah, dude, like I'm fanboying right now just thinking about it. Like when me and my wife watch together, I'm just like glazing over the dude. Because I've just never he looks like Rick and he sounds like Scott. It's just insane to me. But yeah, so basically I keep up for that, and he's having a thing with Jey Uso right now, and I feel kind of happy for Jey because he's never had a singles push, and he's been in the in the WWE for 14, 15 years now. So it's nice for him to get and I'm actually starting to dare I say like Roman Reigns. I hated him for a long time when they were pushing him as a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
But
we all
seeing
did.
seeing his heel work though with Paul Heyman, I mean the dude's brilliant on the mic. Coming to find out, and especially his last couple of years, and I'm glad the rest of the crowd kind of caught on when Solo took over. You're looking at like, I don't know. I don't find it. What's that?
I said he ain't it.
No, it just there's nothing intimidating. The even the entrance music to me is just like I'm laughing my ass off because he's doing this fucking head bobbing thing, and then he grabs the mic. You expect him to have like some sort of guttural tone to his voice. He just goes, "Chicago, acknowledge me." I'm just like, fucking, because Roman puts a little stank on it when he tells the crowd to acknowledge him. Like he roars it out, and Solo's just like very timid about it.
Yeah.
I don't see any confidence. The bloodline literally, I don't even know who the other guys are. They can't fucking wrestle, so I don't care.
I know who they are.
Jacob Fatu is amazing. That
Fatu,
dude,
yeah.
he's gonna get a huge singles push. It's coming. But God, yeah, and I can't stand Cody Rhodes, so there's really no reason for me to watch a whole lot of SmackDown. Yeah, no, dude, I can't do it. Did you see the promo that him
No,
and Roman Reigns had this last Friday?
I didn't see it. No.
Dude, I had to pause it because I was just laughing so hard. So they did their promo. They had to do it at an empty Georgia Tech stadium. So like they're a ways from the arena where the event's being held at, and it's kind of like what do you call like a vignette or something? It's like a promo video that they're doing. Basically, him and Roman are agreeing to team up, and like Roman says, after this, I'm coming to take back what's mine. So it's like a really serious tone, and he starts to walk away. And Cody just does this thing where it's like this dramatic, like he's cutting him off from walking. And I thought they were gonna kiss or something. It was just overly dramatic, like big cinema. He's like, "You're not taking this from me." It was.
Oh jeez.
Dude, I can't.
Hammer.
He's
can't.
something.
I can't with Cody, man.
Full disclosure on this shirt. This was a Bullet Club grad bag at the time when the Bullet Club was huge in New Japan. So it was like 3 shirts for $30, and they send you the shirts. And this was one of the shirts I got because this is when he's in Bullet Club. I would not have bought a Cody Rhodes shirt. I just thought it was funny to wear it tonight.
Well, do you realize, like, and I think Cody falls into this category because, I mean, he's a good wrestler. I'll give him that. I can't listen to him talk. I already established that. But I feel like some guys are over because of their entrance music. I feel like he's one of those guys. Seth Rollins to a degree, too.
Oh, 100% Seth Rollins, yeah.
Yeah. Because I never cared for that guy either. I mean, again, he's solid on the mic. I think it's kind of annoying in like a, I don't want to say John Cena way, but you get what I mean. Yeah. I don't know. Him and Cody, few other guys, actually a lot of other guys. I'll be honest. And this is what I hate about modern wrestling is. Back in the 90s, you had, the sweet chin music, and now everybody's doing it 20 times a match.
Right.
And I don't know, just the kicking back and forth. And Jacob Fatu does it too, but he also has these brutal grapple moves and power slams and shit. So he mixes it up. But when I see like the Usos and Rhodes and Rollins, it's just a bunch of super kicking. I will say, too, I do like Drew McIntyre a lot. I like what he's doing. I like the snarkiness and the shots that he takes at CM Punk every fucking episode. So that's very entertaining.
I wanted to briefly say when you said about the Bloodline, you didn't know those guys. So, Tonga came from New Japan. He's been there forever. He's fine. He's absolutely fine. But people who watch New Japan were just fucking sick of him. And we heard he was leaving. It was like, fucking good. Go.
Yeah.
But his brother, Tangaloa, who was way shittier.
That guy.
It became a Twitter thing where I don't think this had anything to do with it, but New Japan fans be like, oh man, I really hope WWE doesn't find out about the real banger in this family, Tangaloa, and I hope they don't take him too. And then like 2 months later they took him and we're like, yeah, we did it. We got rid of it.
Yeah, he I mean it's hard watching him wrestle, but even spots like where to stand on the outside of the ring or when to interfere with a match. I think there was an interference he was supposed to commit where he would pull the ref out of the ring.
He fucked that up
and
too.
he fucked it up, and the ref ended up having to slide out of the ring and make it look like he was pulled. And there was a chant that ensued. It was, "You can't wrestle." It was directed at him.
He sucks. He sucks real bad.
He's really bad. But yeah, the other guy, I already forgot, Tomatonga.
Yeah.
He's he's not bad, but nothing
okay.
flashy. I'm not really impressed. But I don't know. I miss the what's the post Attitude Era? Ruthless Aggression, I think it was.
Yeah.
So like I missed those early days back when one of my favorite heel runs of all time, I'll just say real quick, was Undertaker in 2002 when he was before he was considered Big Evil, because I think Big Evil was when he did the face turn again. But when he cut his hair and had that generic hard rock music, he was just brutalizing these guys half his size with chair shots.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Brainbuster's bad, chair shots good. Wherever.
So, Dan, how do you feel about chair shots? I'm still listening. I just got to warm out for a second.
Oh, no, that's fine. They're fine in the right spot. I think I never took unprotected headshots when I worked, so I was fortunate in that regard. I always seem to find other ways to incur a bunch of blunt force trauma to my head. I
So you would do the like hand stop, like right on the forehead, pretty much.
Any time if anyone would swing one at me, that's what I would do. Even one time, the first time somebody in a match, they ever swung one at me, I legit blocked it and stopped them and took the chair from them, and then just kind of I hit them in the stomach with it, and then gave them one across the back. And I as they were lying there and selling the move and everything, I leaned down and said, "I don't play with chairs." And that was the end of that, because the way I was trained, it wasn't like there was a blading class, and it wasn't like we learned how to go through a table properly or anything like that. That was always stuff that you learned somewhere down the road. But coming from a school like Malenko's, that was always stuff that were considered bad habits. Like, you're going to end up picking up bad habits by doing stuff like that. And I mean, so it was just something that I never really, I never did a lot of hardcore stuff. I never, the only times I'd ever bleed in a match was hard way. If I got whacked in the nose or if somebody caught me with a good shot, then I'd end up bleeding that way. But beyond that, I never really, I never did all the hardcore stuff, because I never had to. Because when I was younger, in my younger years, when I was a little bit more athletic and did more like the cruiserweight style, that wasn't my job. My job wasn't to do hardcore stuff. They always had other hardcore guys. They had a whole hardcore division in a lot of the companies I worked for. And then after I left and I came back, and they ended up giving me the hillbilly gimmick, it was more or less, I was either like it was either like a comedy act was what we were for a little while. And then when the whole group went away and it just became me, and I ended up doing the whole Moonshine McCoy thing, then it was more like I was kind of like, the best way to describe it would be like a feature act on the show, where it was never quite main event stuff, but it was always there because, not to toot my own horn or sound like an egomaniac, but I was over. Like when I worked, I was over. Everywhere I went, I got over with the crowd. Like everybody had a gimmick. Alex, take it easy. But yeah, so it was, I always had a job because I got good reactions from the crowd. Because people in Florida, you got a hillbilly gimmick, it's pretty much tailor-made. But, I just kind of ran with it. Like, we always used to joke, because the whole idea behind the gimmick that I did for a while was, it started out as a Devil's Rejects. The promoter, he went to go see Devil's Rejects. he got the idea to create this whole group. So he gets my buddy Mike, my old tag partner Mike, and this guy Tom Cruise. His name was legit Tom Cruise, but it was
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, Tom motherfucking Cruise, TMFC, and he even had the boots, TMFC. And we were like, Tom, what's that? What is that? Oh, it's Tom motherfucking Cruise. I was like, okay, fair enough. And but Tom was terrible. Tom was absolutely terrible. Before I left wrestling for 3 years, he was a student at Steve Kern's school, which I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Kern or not, Trev, but he was the second version of Doink the Clown back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Steve was like a very famous journeyman wrestler, Florida wrestler. Skinner, he was Skinner at one, he did that. And for anybody who might be watching this and doesn't know who Steve Kern is, Steve Kern's a very famous wrestler. And he had a school down here that we used to share at Malenko's and Kern's would do their stuff at night. Dean would do his stuff during the day. Then eventually when Malenko shut down, Kern still had the school and Tom was there. I went there one day and Tom was there. And I went back there 3 years later and Tom was still there and still had not had his first match.
Oh, no.
And so that's how good he was. So I would work with him. And I didn't know what I was going to do when I got back into wrestling. Like I had no plans. I didn't really have like a design for where I was going to go with all this. But I worked with him a couple times and I could see like, I said, you're the guy who was here like 3 years ago. And I said, okay. So I said, I know what I'm going to do with myself. If I never contribute anything to the business, good, bad, or ugly, which in this case, some would probably debate it was ugly. I'm going to get this guy his first match. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work with him enough to where he's serviceable enough in the ring to where he can go out there, have a match, not stink the place up, not have it be a total abortion. And that's what we're going to do. So I would work with him. And we eventually got him good enough to where when they came up with this gimmick, they stuck him with Mike. And the two of them went out there and they did this whole thing. Like Mike took a Barbie doll and he took a bunch of nails and he put the nails in the Barbie doll's head. They had Tom come out in these big fishing wader boots and he stuck them full of like bones from chicken wing bones and stuff like that. And they scared the crap out of the audience. But Tom was limited, shall we say, in the ring. Like one time he did this thing where this is where they knew they had to find a new partner for Mike. They had a match. The heels are putting the steam on Tom. They take him and throw him to the outside. They do the deal where they get the referee out of the way. They take Tom, slam him on the outside on the floor on the outside. Tom pops right back up, walks around the ring, gets up on the apron, tags out to Mike. I'll throw my socks down, by the way. And Mike's like, so then we're driving to school. Mike and I are driving to train one day, and he starts talking to me. He goes, Dan, can you join this? Can you become an hillbilly with us? I can, if you want me to. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. No, Dan, we got some other plans for Dan. No, we're not making him a hillbilly. Then like 3 weeks later, Dan, you want to be a hillbilly? Grow out your beard, retard all your wrestling knowledge? And I said, yeah, sure. So I grew out my beard and I retarded all my wrestling knowledge. And then probably like 6 years later, I realized I was retarded. And that was pretty much, that was the deal. But no. As far as, it was funny kind of going back. I was listening when you guys were talking about like all the, like how moves that used to be finishers. Now they're pretty much like transition moves in a match. I was watching Jericho and Orange Cassidy, and I was losing my mind on the couch watching that because I watched Orange Cassidy hit 3 DDTs in a row, and I'm just losing my mind at this. It's like, Jake the Snake Roberts needed one of these things back in the day. Just one. That's all he needed. And you hit 3 in a row, and Jericho's still getting up from it. And it's like stuff like that I lose my mind over because it's like, even back when I did it and stuff was kind of like, even at the time when I did the era that I was doing it, it was still kind of a little bit, little overbooked at times. it's still, that's where it kind of gets nowadays. It's crazy. Like I think to it, like always the thing that you were trained to learn as far as the psychology went was you always wanted to try to make it believable. At this point in time in life, people are not looking at wrestling and thinking that it's real. Nobody thinks that pro wrestling is a legit on the level sport. They all understand the difficulties of what it takes to do it. People understand the danger that it takes to do it. When I run into people, if they don't, I tell them my story, and then I tell them, so the next time somebody tells you pro wrestling's fake, then you tell them about the guy that you met who broke his freaking body in half doing it, and then you can tell them that it's, it's not real, but it's not real, but it's a very rough business. It's a very hard business. Very rough on the body.
Well, like Joey Mercury taking that ladder to the face too.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
That? Yeah.
Oh yeah. But you'd always try to present it like it was a real fight. Like you'd want people, if nothing else, the greatest compliment you can get from people after a show, if they come up to you after a match and they see you, is, man, I know that shit's fake, but that was real. And then it's just giving it that believability factor. And when you see guys nowadays and they're kicking each other 20, 25 times in the head, and then they're standing there, and I used to love the forearm, the going back and forth. I love doing that stuff. That I really enjoy it because there's that stupid piece of my brain that still likes the combat. So I would like to just go in there and mix it up with people like that. But you combine that with the 20 super kicks and the 5 DDTs, and it ruins the illusion, because no human being could take that much trauma to the brain and then get up and like everything's fine, and you can't just pass it off like, oh no, we're just better conditioned athletes nowadays. It's like, no, you guys you're just doing shit just to do it, and nobody listens. None of them listen. They all look at you like you're an idiot, or you're, it's not 1980 anymore. It's like, oh,
slow it down, kid.
Yeah, fine, whatever.
DDT is another move that, used to be a finisher, and now you could do 5 of those. And realistically, if you were to do a DDT to somebody, especially on a steel chair, they're probably fucking dead.
Right.
Or at least they're gonna go down for a 3 count. Now it's, Stone Cold Stunner too. Now you got Kevin Owens and John Cena doing stunners. And it's just another transition move, basically.
Right.
Like a higher, I don't know what you would call it, like a higher spot sort of transition move, but still is not considered a finisher these days. So
yeah,
it's getting a little too repetitive with some of that stuff.
I'm kind of in the middle on this. Obviously, Dan having done it, I respect his opinion more than me sitting on the couch. On the one hand, I see the DDT argument, but then you can also go back and like, okay, the fucking bear hug used to be a death finisher. Things move on. The DDT shit don't bother me, but then see, I think I'm like, oh, I'm up with the modern wrestling, but then when people start throwing like 15 Canadian destroyers in a match and then just getting up, then I'm like, all right, no. Like that should be a death move.
Yeah. Well, spears too.
We all have our line.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Anyway, there was, Bradshaw. He took what was basically a transition move and turned it into a finisher. So he kind of did the opposite. But when he did the clothesline from hell.
Yeah.
But that was just fucking brutal looking. So I felt like that was justified. What do you guys think about Bradshaw, by the way?
I love Bradshaw.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Bradshaw. Yeah, there is nothing greater in this business than a well done and well placed lariat. When you, being as somebody who has used them before, it's just something about like whether it's from whether you're in the ring or you're out in the crowd, to if you hit a lariat, if you hit a nice clothesline on somebody and you get that nice pop behind it because you just walloped your opponent, and it's one of the greatest things. It's something that where the fans can feel it because you like legit tried to take somebody's head off with it. And
Yeah.
Bradshaw had one of the best. I mean, I love Bradshaw. He's such a shithead at times that he's a heat magnet, and I love Bradshaw. Yeah, I love the fact that he's doing stuff on the indies and just showing up, and yeah, he's just cool. I don't know. I can't really explain it much more than that. I just think he's cool. He's a real smart guy. Very, very business savvy, and has good head on his shoulders. He used to. There's probably a small piece of me because he used to play on the Raiders, and when I do follow football, I follow the Raiders, even though they suck ass right now and have for a while. But yeah, it's just I love Bradshaw. We always used to joke that me and my old tag partner Kevin, we always used to joke is that we'll get a shot with WWF, and then they'll stick us in the ring for our dark match or our enhancement talent match, and then all we would hear would be the Acolytes music. And we're like, oh shit, we're just we're gonna die tonight, aren't we? And
the Public Enemy match with them.
Oh,
yeah, I like bringing Farouk back for some appearances every now and then too. I think he just popped in on an episode of SmackDown because I think they had their 25th year anniversary this last Friday. So yeah, if I remember correctly, he was on there. Yeah.
I guess I'll weigh in on Bradshaw. I always liked him as a performer.
Yeah.
And his clothesline is fucking amazing. But
it's brutal.
This is where I'm gonna be a hypocrite because like I listen to fucking Burzum and I'm a big separate the art from the artist guy. I can still watch matches and enjoy them. But just the stories coming out about Bradshaw and what a fucking piece of shit he is, it really turned me off. Like, him bullying, basically shooting on Blue Meanie during the ECW reunion.
That pissed me off. I saw that.
And then him on commentary, I think that was the worst. Just listen to him, Mago. I just fucking shut up. And now him like showing up in GCW, I was like, fucking go away, dude. I can't. I got to be fair. I did like him as a wrestler.
Yeah, I don't think he's as bad as Coachman on commentary, so I'll give him that.
Well, yeah,
I can't do it. Yeah, I'm kind of sort of in the middle with him too. I've just never really had like a set opinion on the guy, mainly because like. I don't know, the worst I've seen of him, I'm trying to bear myself by doing this too, is I try not to like hold a grudge against somebody for something that happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, him shooting on Blue Meanie is still fucked up, but it was, 2000?
You're right, it was
mid-2000s. Yeah, 20 years ago. So I'm not excusing that, but at the same time, and then there was that other commentary guy. I don't even know who he is, but apparently,
Ranallo.
Whoever,
yeah.
Bradshaw, I guess, was harassing him and forced him to quit or something like that. I don't know if it's true. I haven't gotten any sort of confirmation. I'm assuming it's true. If that's the case, and that's messed up too. But I heard, I heard he's like meditating now, JBL. So maybe he's gotten a little bit softer, especially given his age.
Right.
I'm hoping he's gotten better.
Well, back then he also he did end up eating a little humble pie because I don't know what the full story was, but he
Joey Styles.
Joey,
knocked him the fuck out. Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Well, they had the brawl for all too. Remember when they would have the brawl for all?
Yeah.
And I think he legit got knocked out in that too. So basically, the dude's like 0 for life in any real fight he's had.
Right.
And then, the Rene Dupree stuff too. Almost
Yeah.
forgot about that. So, yeah.
That was Bob Holly. That was the other guy who used to bully everybody, allegedly.
I heard he's actually like Maven Huffman. He has his YouTube channel now. I'm sure you guys are aware. He had nothing but positive things to say about Bob. RVD, same thing. He had nothing but good things to say about Bob. Really, the only thing I've heard was from Rene Dupree, which turns out like I've watched his podcast a few times. The dude does seem kind of bitter.
Mhm.
At least to me, he kind of just seems like a dude who complains for the sake of it. But yeah, I've heard like nothing but good things about Bob aside from Renee's situation. He seems like, I don't know. Kevin Nash doesn't like him either, but Kevin Nash, I'll say this on the record, that I probably hate no wrestler more than Kevin Nash. And X-Pac can go up there too. I can't fucking stand either of those guys. And now that he's doing that podcast with the little weasel that used to do those shoot interviews, what's his name?
Sean Oliver.
Yeah. No, what was that his name? Sean Oliver? Like
Sean Oliver. Yep.
He's the one that did the stuff with like he tried to get
kayfabe commentaries and all that sort of stuff.
He tried to get in China to admit how many drugs she's done, and yeah, that guy just seems like a piece of shit. But I've tried watching them a couple times, and Kevin is just I don't know how many muscle relaxers every episode, but it's just like snoring and a bunch of fucking and like.
Yeah, he's like basically comatose in the clips I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like fucking me and Scott fucking. We used to fucking wait when we were super over, like more over than people say The Rock is over and Steve Austin, but people didn't wait 3 hours to see us stand in a portal for 30 seconds like me and Scott. It's just like every fucking time I hear that guy talk, it's basically
Yeah.
I can't.
This randomly popped in my head. I just want to bring up talking about like spamming like finishers, DDTs, and whatnot. And we talked about Okada earlier. Among some people considered maybe the best right now, or maybe in the top of ever. His high spots are a ripcord clothesline and a drop kick. Like that's it. He doesn't do like flashy shit. He does have an elbow drop, but like he's more like Nick Bockwinkel than anybody of the modern age. So it is possible to like be like a top wrestler nowadays and not just do the high spots constantly. So I just thought I'd just mention that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like back and forth on high spots too, the frequency of them. That's probably why I haven't given AEW the fair shot.
It's a very high spot promotion, yeah. That's kind of the house.
Yeah, and I heard it's just a lot of like missile drop kicks and a lot of somersaults. What are they called? Do like a bunch of like those Neville flips. I forget what those are called. Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching RVD, so I guess it's kind of hypocritical, but his seemed more like a methodical approach. Like not as random, but
I think back then it was a little different because RVD was one of the few guys that was doing
the generator.
Yeah, right.
Where now it's there's like 3 matches to a card where that's what they do.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was basically just him and Jeff doing it, and Rey Mysterio too. But
Scott, you're an AEW fan. Who are these Outrunner guys, and why are they so popular?
Their gimmick is is that they're basically from 1985, and they're
Okay.
jacked up dudes with horrible blonde eye jobs and in neon tights, and they film their vignettes and like on simulated VHS. It's just kind of like a meme thing that's caught on recently.
Okay.
And they're fun. They're like high energy and they're fun, but they're basically a job team.
Yeah, I've seen matches of theirs, and they're not good.
No, they're not. They're not great workers or anything.
Yeah, I would dare say they're terrible, because I watched them with FTR, and that was bad. And I watched another match of theirs.
Was that the one tonight?
No, I think I saw a couple weeks back on. It was one of the was it Collision, one of the Saturday night show. I think I saw that, and it wasn't good. I saw another match with theirs, and it wasn't good. And it was just okay. I don't understand it.
They're one of those. There's one of those acts that I think like they're right now. They're kind of harmless fun. If they start getting pushed to the top, I would definitely be like no. But I don't see that happening. I think they're just kind of like a fun little mid card deal right now.
Yeah, I saw something where somebody called them a parody act, and I was like, oh come on. We don't need a parody.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it does verge on like kind of the meme wrestler. But I don't know. It doesn't bother me. They don't freaking win. So I mean,
yeah,
they can come out there and be silly and then get squashed in 2 minutes. I mean, I kind of like those like, those old like job guys or teams that like would have a gimmick like the State Patrol or something like that. Like I think that's kind of cool, and that's kind of where I would slot them right now.
I thought the Hurricane was kind of entertaining. Him and his sidekick Rosie.
Yeah.
It was pretty. I don't know, just Shane Helms. That's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I've watched a couple Shun interviews from too, and he's like overly positive. But if you bring up Shawn Michaels' name, he just completely flips a switch. Have you seen any of it?
No.
Oh, dude, it's funny because like, I think it might have been. I think it was a Sean Oliver interview, and he's just throwing all these names at Shane, and he's like, "Oh, I love him," and he has like this accent too that goes with how happy he is. He just seems like a really genuine dude, but as soon as he mentions Shawn Michaels, it's just like completely. Like he puts on a mask, and I mean Sean, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in the '90s. You guys, of course, know that.
Was this? I was thinking with Shane Helms, it would be after Sean's like big born again.
I think it was 2002. I would assume because that's when.
Huh? He didn't change his stripes, huh?
No, I was kind of. Yeah, I mean, Sean is another guy like JBL in the sense where I'm thinking he might have gotten better, but I still have reservations. But Triple H too. I used to really hate that guy, and I've actually kind of grown to respect him recently. Mainly because.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, based on his, he seems to have a genuine love for wrestling and his commitment to NXT and bringing those guys up, and whoever he's putting a stamp on, I think, is a better product than what Vince was putting out in like those, sort of twilight years. Just my opinion.
Let's get in. So this will be controversial.
Oh, cool! I love it.
I think the greatest retcon that the WWE ever pulled was convincing everyone that Triple H was a huge star.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I do agree.
I've never forgotten. They can't fucking gaslight me on it. I watched it. No, he wasn't. And you can tell me over and over what a fucking legend he was. No, he wasn't. I remember the Triple H reign of terror when he was fucking jacked or gassed up to the gills at like 300 pounds and could barely move and had like those horrible matches with Scott Steiner.
To be fair, I think Scott Steiner was worse.
Well, probably.
So
but
yeah, his cardio was but yeah.
he wasn't burning up the ring. Triple H wasn't burning up the ring either, and it was in. I sort of softened on him when he was in charge of NXT.
Mm-hmm.
But you got it. I mean, that was a failure. They took that away from him, and then he was just kind of sitting there on the board until old Vince got caught with his finger in the cookie jar one too many times, and then he ended up in charge. And now it's the humble. Oh, Triple H, he's so humble. He doesn't. No, please, I don't want to go out to the crowd. Oh, okay. Every fucking show. And I can't. It's so fucking disingenuous to me. I just can't. Like, oh, it's the Triple H era, but I don't want to be out there. No, guys, this is your show. Oh, okay, I guess I'll come out.
I can see your point of view, definitely. The Reign of Terror was really hard for me to sit through.
Yeah. I'm traumatized from it, I guess.
Yeah, it took me a long time to even appreciate Randy Orton just because of his involvement in Evolution, which I mean, I'll give even Randy Orton's given credit to Triple H for kickstarting his career with that. So I mean, Triple H has made a few stars, but some of those burials they did during that Reign of Terror, like the Booker T one, I still don't understand.
Jesus,
that was brutal. That was because if I remember the match that kind of ended it basically how they wrote it was Booker T didn't even belong in the same arena as Triple H.
It was
like
he
gets knocked out. He's just
racist too. Like it was
very I don't remember exactly like everything he said. I think he made like a nappy hair comment. And the people like you don't deserve. So that's kind of, maybe I'm being a little controversial in that take. I don't really necessarily think he was for sure talking about race there. He might have been talking about, I mean, it probably was race, but I'm thinking it also was a possibility he was referring to you WCW people.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Just because they had that whole invasion recently and they were blatantly, burying all the WCW talent, most of it anyway. Like, I'm a big Undertaker fan, but he did DDP dirty, I thought.
Oh, Jesus, that was awful, yeah.
And I don't know what came of that, like if they're getting along or anything, but that was kind of a bummer because I'm a big, Diamond Dallas Page fan too. I even used to do his yoga a little bit, which I probably should get back to doing.
Well, Vince had to win, even though they were now all his guys, and there was nothing to prove. He won, but he had to beat them all on TV like bitches, and he did, and that's why that angle should have made tens of millions of dollars, and it made nothing.
Yeah, that's why I'm not. I don't know. Like the Attitude Era kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like towards the end of, the Attitude Era as a name. That's why I kind of have more fond memories of the Ruthless Aggression Era. Yeah. Also because I was starting to come of age where I was able to understand stuff. But yeah, I mean, they had terrible. I don't remember if it was still WWF. I think it was when they did the Katie Vick angle. Fuck, that was that was probably speaking of Triple H. That was probably the worst thing I've seen of him in any segment was that whole spiel. But they did Kane dirty too.
Yeah. Well, he deserves
Kane's a legend, man.
He's a Republican.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Anytime I go Twitter now, it's people like, "Oh, Kane the mayor." Like, you guys all loved him until he said he was Republican, and now whatever. Let's not get into that.
I loved him even more after that.
But Dan, I wanted to ask you first of all, Triple H, your opinions, and then also I'm going to throw this out there: is Randy Orton the most boring good wrestler of all time?
Randy Orton,
Boring good wrestler.
he's good. He's a natural, and I think that's probably why he always seems like he's moving at half speed, because he almost seems like he's always phoning it in.
Yeah.
He's so smooth in the ring, and
that power slam.
He seems like he's having a bit of a career resurgence since he came back from his back injury, because he was out for what, like 2.5 years or something.
2
It
years,
was like a ridiculous amount of time. But he can be. He definitely he's I think just his natural personality. He seems like he's a very, very laid back kind of guy, and that seems to translate in the way that he works. But he's just. Yeah, I would agree with that. And Triple H, I liked him growing up, watching him over the years. But I would say that I think that's always been the big slight on him, is that he was never the guy. He was always the guy with the guy. Like there was always Rock, there was always Austin, there was always The Undertaker. Even the stuff that he did with Foley. That was always, he was always the bigger star. DX was probably like the height of anything that he did. And then the Reign of Terror, that time, that era, that was around when I wasn't really watching it too much, because I didn't have a television at the time. So I didn't really watch a lot of, I obviously didn't watch any TV, but I wasn't watching a lot of wrestling at the time. But I've always enjoyed him. But yeah, I don't know. I hear a lot of people some people think that this is like the great. Oh, it's the greatest time ever. It's the Levesque era and all that. And it's like, okay, well,
I won't go that far.
Yeah, I don't know about. Yeah, I don't know about all that. NXT was good, but back then, but it was. I enjoyed it, but it just doesn't seem like, and you could always say that maybe that was because of the way that once they got to the main roster, they weren't, Vince McMahon creations, so they kind of buried them. But it just seemed like everybody who went up to the main roster, nobody did anything. And I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if maybe they weren't really, maybe whatever they saw for them at the NXT level never was going to translate to the main roster, because you see some of the guys, they go to AEW, and what have they done in AEW? It's like, and granted, some of them they haven't really given them a chance. Like Miro, he hasn't gotten he's not gotten a chance. And I think I heard something today where he's asking for his release. He doesn't even want to be in AEW anymore.
Well,
Aleister Black.
He also doesn't like to come to work or do jobs, so there's that too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What was the deal with Aleister Black? Because he was a guy I was kind of getting fond of, and then he gets released, and I haven't even heard much of him. And apparently he's in another promotion. He's in AEW. You said
AEW too. He's okay. A lot of these guys who Vince fired. Aleister Black, Vince fired him, and all these. This was in the era where, whenever anyone got fired, they would go on their podcast tour and say, "Oh, Vince loved me," but whoever Johnny Ace fired me, or it's like, motherfucker, if Vince loved you, you'd still be there. But anyway, so a lot of these people got fired under Vince, and then once Vince was gone and Uncle Paul was in charge, they signed 5-year deals with AEW, and then all of a sudden they want to go back, and then they started, not wanting to do jobs, not wanting to, didn't show up to work. So Aleister Black is in that category. I mean, I don't know. I don't work there, but that's what people say.
Yeah.
He'll disappear for months at a time and then show up and work a few matches, then disappear again. Miro the same way. So if it was me, I would just say, fucking go. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be difference makers. If they want to leave and they're unhappy, fucking let them go. But I don't know.
Is Christian Cage in AEW, or is he in TNA, or are they like all merged now?
Yeah, he's in AEW. Yeah, he's actually been doing really, really fun stuff.
I've been watching his his whole character involves insulting, was it people's moms or dads, something like that?
People who have dead fathers, yeah.
Dead fathers, yeah. I saw a couple clips where I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, savage. I did see some highlights from the match he did with Edge. I think it was might have been a cage match. Again, I haven't been paying any attention to AEW, so it's one of those things I need to catch up on. But it's cool to see him still doing work, because Christian was one of those underrated workers. I thought
Yeah, I did too.
from the WWE, and wish he was still back. So yeah, it's nice to see that he's back doing work. I watched his interview he did with Chris Van Fleet, and I guess he's him and Edge have a little business together where they sell like these plank pads. Have you guys seen that?
Uh-uh.
I heard a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I guess he's into planking now. Like that's his workout.
Okay.
And
he looks fucking awesome. I mean, he's like 50 years old, and he's like,
yeah, he's shredded, and he says he just does planks all the time now. Him and Edge together.
Yeah, when they brought him in, they made a big deal about it. I was like, fucking Christian, really? But it soon becomes clear when somebody comes in, like, are they here because they want another paycheck, or are they here because like they feel like they have more that they can do that they weren't able to do, and they actually want to contribute something? And he's definitely in that category. And then they brought in Edge, and I was like, same way. I was like, fucking Edge. This hasn't been washed for like 10 years, and he comes in and he's just feeling it. Like you could tell he's having fun and just being able to do things he couldn't do before. And then there's people like Miro who showed up and things didn't go their way, and then they pout. So
yeah, I also think Christian and Edge kind of feel like they probably in a sense owe it to the fans, because they both sat out for 9 or 10 years due to injuries. So they want to go out on a high note, which ironically Edge broke his foot. I think he broke his foot recently, so that's kind of a shitty setback. But I mean, he had a good renaissance with the WWE, and then I don't know why he got let go. I guess they just had plans for him. But I thought the whole Judgment Day, like him starting the Judgment Day thing, was kind of weird. And now people forgot that he started the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
I can't take that team seriously.
Dominic now or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just not. Dominic is a great heel because he really makes it easy for you to hate him. But I'm looking, man, and it's, I don't know. I kind of miss those not the tag teams, but those factions that were like genuinely terrifying, and it pissed you off because they were terrifying, and you felt like that they're gonna have they're gonna have a stranglehold over the company. Where these guys are all like 150 pounds, but for some reason you're having them go on this reign of terror. It's just not very convincing to me.
Dominic he crosses over into that go away heat for me. Like it's not. I don't want to see him get beat up. I just want to turn the channel. So
it's not.
It doesn't entertain me at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even sort of tired of Rey. I got burned out of Rey Mysterio a long time ago. Probably just because he didn't really bring too much character with the move set.
Right.
But yeah, Dominic, I don't know. Like he's a good heat magnet, I guess. But yeah, probably for the same reason that you're stating, because I'm not really intrigued by what he has to say. But I don't know. I'm a guy that's just on his couch, so I don't really have too much weight on that. But
yeah, me too.
I mean, so I'm not trying to dog him personally. I think he seems like a really good kid. I just I don't care for the character.
It's funny how he's leaning into the whole Eddie Guerrero's illegitimate son thing with the greasy mullet and the porn stash and all that.
I mean, I think what he's doing, like, have you noticed the more evil he gets, the more the longer his hair is, the more tattoos he's getting. The more he gets inked up too, is like he's just going to be nastier. So it's kind of a reflection of his personality. Like, I think that's kind of brilliant, but I'm just not captivated in any way by what he's saying.
No, me either.
And here's now they're doing the. Go ahead.
You can finish.
I was just gonna say I wanted to bring this up too, because I was actually really rooting for Damian Priest, to finally get his spotlight, and now I'm already over it. Because they like, it reminds me of Roman when they made Roman the top baby face. They're kind of doing that to Damian in this corny manner, where it's also, I'm doing this for you guys and I love all of you, you're my family, and I came from the streets, which that's a new thing he's saying all of a sudden, like, I came from the streets and I'm a survivor. And he's doing the not necessarily the Hulk Hogan thing, but doing the look at me sort of thing in between kicks, or those elbows too. When he does the elbows, he'll do the and it's, I don't know, just overdoing it. It's just a bit corny for me, and I've never been a big Rhea Ripley fan. Nope. I think her moveset's pretty good. Like, she has some good brutal matches in her, but when she talks, that's changing the channel worthy.
This is not fair at all. But when she comes out to her fucking, I don't even know, it's been like a couple years. I think not this WrestleMania, but last.
Oh, that Motionless in White stuff.
Is that the song? This is my brutality. That song. I
think. Well, I watched that WrestleMania intro she did this year, and that's who was out there, was Motionless in White. And I mean, as a metalhead, maybe that's probably why I don't like her either.
Nope.
Is because her fans look at her and Damian be like, they're metalheads, they need to stick together.
I saw that and I felt like fucking Justin Horval, like, fucking pose.
Yeah. Get that canoe off the stage. Fucking flat brims and all.
That's a nice impression.
Well, you hear it enough times, man. Yeah. I haven't watched him in months, but I still got him down.
Frickin' what's his name? All I can think of is Punishment Martinez, Damian Priest. I watched him in Ring of Honor, and I was always like, I don't know. He's big, and he can, like, do a tope, I guess, but he never fucking did nothing for me, and he hasn't done anything to change my mind. So, and he beat Tomohiro Ishii on a show I watched, and I was so mad. I'm never forgiving him. I love Ishii. But,
I watch him, and I'm not, like, overly impressed, but I do think he has a pretty good moveset. That South of Heaven choke slam is pretty cool looking. But I don't know, the fucking eyeliner and again, I'm an Undertaker fan saying that, so it's kind of like ironic, but I guess he's known as the bisexual Undertaker. That's what they're calling him. Did you guys hear that? He's aware of it. I forgot who said to him, but he was like, you're known as the bisexual Undertaker. I don't know if he knew what to think of that, but I mean, you kind of tell. You can kind of tell though. He had Undertaker as an influence.
Yeah.
So I do think he's a good wrestler. I just don't think the character translates well, especially now that he's like a full blown babyface and he's completely turning into this like hoorah guy, and I like the tweeners. I just like the Brock Lesnar's that mow over anybody that's in their way. And when they do grab a mic, it's a few short. I mean, granted, when Brock talks, it should be a few seconds.
Right.
But because oh boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the character that, and Kane too. I always thought was like a good tweener. You didn't know who he was going to snap on, but it is what it is.
So Scott, that was probably a good transition a little bit to one of the other topics that you had mentioned. Was who are the most metal wrestlers?
That's a tough one, man.
It is.
I didn't take any notes.
I wrote down a couple, but some of mine are a little obvious, so I'll just do a couple.
All right.
Hey, okay, now this so you guys don't watch AEW. You probably don't know this guy. The Beast Mordos. Have you seen him?
Yep.
You have? Okay.
I know who that is. Yep.
Used to be Black Taurus. He's basically Trevor. He's a minotaur. He's got like a giant like bullhead mask, and he's just a big thick.
I knew you
dude.
said that.
But he's just fucking awesome. I don't know. Just that he's like a big bruiser dude. I guess when I think of metal wrestlers, I think of like big ass kickers. So that's a guy I thought of.
This is Lair the Minotaur, so I thought it was pretty funny.
Nice.
So I just brought a few albums in here just to kind of give what I would use as like song titles for an entrance. Yeah.
I did not do that.
That's fine.
The aforementioned Tomohiro Ishii, I just think he's just, I don't know if you guys have seen him. He's in New Japan, but he's like he looks like a bowling ball. He's like 5 feet tall. He's got no neck. He's bald.
No neck is good.
He never wins, but you always want him to win. He's one of these like you have to fucking kill him to beat him. Just always one of my favorites, and master of the one count kick out that always leads to him losing. But I don't know, that's a big Japan thing, but that always fucking pops me when like someone gives them like not their finisher, but like a semi finisher, and you go down for the what you think is the near fall, and he kicks out at one. You're like, oh fuck yeah, he's gonna do it, and then he never does. But I don't know. Bruiser Brody. I mean, that's metal right there, man. Just running around Japan with the chain, swinging it at little kids. I guess that when I think of metal, I think of dudes like that, just like big bruisers, big brawlers.
So it's not necessarily like guys. So it's not necessarily guys you would think listen to metal. They look metal or kind of
more metal vibe. I mean, that's kind of the angle I went with it, not like a metal.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be pretty tough. God, his name is just now escaping me. He was a manager for Vampiro in TNA when he was having that rivalry against Raven. James, what was his name?
James Mitchell. The Sinister
James Mitchell. Yeah. So that dude looks metal. He looks like he definitely jams like some pentagram or something.
He's a minister with the Church of Satan, or at least I know he was at one point.
I was going to ask you that because I've seen him in like shoot interviews, and he has like a big pentagram ring, and he's just like talking like a normal dude. So I was like, this doesn't seem like a put on.
Yeah, he's kind of like Vincent, but I don't think he actually left the church. I think he's still involved in some capacity with the Church of Satan.
Kevin Sullivan, too, or was that just a character thing?
I think it was a gimmick, but back in the day, like you would hear stories, especially he'd scare the crap out of it. He'd scare the hell out of everybody. Like people would legitimately think that he was the devil, and I mean that whole Army of Darkness thing, they tapped into that whole satanic panic like nobody's business, and even just like the look of what they had going on. I mean, they look like something like a metal band with all the spikes and chains and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that would be that was one who was on my list. Trevor was
That's pretty ballsy, especially at that time, like because that people believe.
Yeah. Road Warriors I would put up there too. You know, Dan mentioned them earlier because they were one of the first tag teams I ever saw. They're walking out to Iron Man. They had the spiked shoulder pads, and you know, back then, you know, when I was a kid, Black Sabbath was probably the heaviest thing I knew up until I heard like Accept and stuff like that. But when I heard that, you know, I still was very much in love with the song Iron Man, and I'm just, you know, the painted faces, the outfits. I mean, just how like those guys would put on some good squash matches. So I mean, it was just like the whole fucking package deal. And then
Squashes, yeah.
And then God, there was one that, so I had James, I had Road Warriors, and so this one's kind of disappointing. So Taker, when he was in the Ministry, so from like 98 to 99, that's where he had like this goatee that was cut to, I don't know, it just looked freaking evil. Like how he had his, I don't know what they were doing to his eyebrows too, but I mean, he just looked, especially the Ministry of Darkness 99, that just looked super evil. And I always assumed that he probably listened to like really demonic shit. And then a year later, he's coming out to fucking Kid Rock. So I'm like, okay, I guess Kid Rock. And then was Limp Bizkit. I'm like, all right, yeah, Mirage. Yeah.
You can't win them all.
Yeah. I guess he's not listening to fucking Emperor or something like that.
He strikes me like he's more Leonard Skinner and like the Outlaws and stuff like that.
I think he's like a ZZ Top guy.
Yeah, that seems.
I sense he's a ZZ Top dude. But as far as like a metal entrance, I do think that his entrance at Judgment Day 1998, that's when it was the Ministry theme, but it had the guitar solo that kicked it off. That was super metal. So that's probably like my favorite theme song of all time. So yeah, to go from that to fucking Kid Rock is kind of jarring.
As far as wrestlers who actually listen to metal, I forgot about Jerry Lynn. Yeah, right. he
came out to Fear Factory. He used Fear Factory as his entrance music.
And it was a early Ring of Honor show when they're only selling them on DVD. They had this really awkward, cringy backstage segment where he's listening to something on his CD Walkman, and some other wrestler walks up and goes, "Hey, Jerry, what are you listening to?" He's like, "Soylent Green, Stone Mouse Secrets." And then, "Oh man, where can I get that?" And he goes, "Go to relapse.com." And it's like, what? What is this?
That's funny.
I mean, based on.
Speaking of Go Horror.
Yeah, Jerry Lynn actually does listen to metal, so there's that. There's that.
I heard Aleister Black is a legit fan of black metal too. So
yeah, it would seem so. What his theme was that? Is it Amon Ra?
I don't even remember what his theme was. I barely remember.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah,
His like solo entrance theme, which he never uses anymore, I think is some band that's on Relapse, like from recently. And they're fine. I mean, it's not great, I don't think, but it's metal.
Yeah, assume if he listens to black metal, it's probably not the great stuff. But
yeah, Amon Ra, yeah, they're from Belgium, which I think is where he's from. Mm-hmm. They're like kind of a black metal-ish, but also like kind of sludge, doomy kind of band.
Yeah, I'll pass.
I don't.
I thought you were gonna say avant-garde too. I would shut that shit down.
No. That'd be the trifecta for you.
Yeah. Oh,
No,
I'm good.
I think I grabbed that at like a relapse sale for $5. I was like, I haven't listened to it since. So that was
Yeah.
all right. Sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Oh no, sure, that's fine. So yeah, Kevin Sullivan, he was definitely on my list of people. LOD Road Warriors, absolutely. They're, to me, that's probably the most. Those two especially are probably the most metal of all time pro
Yeah.
wrestling acts or attractions and whatnot. I'd say, and you'll know who this is, Scott. Brody King. I went with him because he is
Brody
in
King.
God's hate, and I figured that I had to check to see if they're hardcore or they're a metal band, but apparently they're considered more like metalcore, metallic hardcore. So I guess it's kind of like, kind of nipping at the edges of metal, but I'd say him. And plus I like his work. He's pretty cool as far as he's one of the guys that I enjoy as far as more modern talent. I think he's pretty solid in the ring. I don't know if you're familiar with this guy, but I brought this just to show. Do you know who that is?
Slack.
Scott?
Yeah.
Schlack.
Yeah.
Schlack is
Excuse
he's got his grindcore band, and they do lots of samples from. They use a lot of wrestling samples and stuff like that. So as far as guys who I would say would be the most metal wrestlers, I would probably have to put him up there because he's in a metal band and he uses wrestling samples. So it's kind of, I don't know. You can't get much more metal than that.
I've never seen him wrestle. He's a
deathmatch guy. Yeah,
okay.
He does mostly deathmatch stuff, which is
so he's like Balls Mahoney type stuff. Pretty much.
light tubes and thumbtacks and what is it, grommets or roofing, whatever the hell the things that they're piercing into each other's heads, all that kind of crazy nonsense. But he's a pretty cool dude as far as I know. But yeah, I happened to find this. I was searching for something and I saw this on there and I said, that's that Schlack guy. Because I used to, or I still listen to this one podcast, and they got talking about him because he would talk about smoking crack and all sorts of other crazy nonsense that he would do, and I was like, oh, this guy's a trip. And then you'd see his matches, and he just whacking him, smacking his opponent with the light tubes, then hitting himself and smacking them. And it's like, oh, you're a freaking nut. And then I just happened to come across that, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta get that." That just, I don't even know if this is any good or not, but I have to get it just for the novelty factor. And it turns out it's not that bad. I mean, my ears and probably taste for grindcore are probably not the greatest, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
Is he in? Is that the one that has like a compilation of a bunch of his bands?
Yeah, this is the Eat the Turnbuckle, Call the Paramedics.
Yeah,
I forget
the
ones.
Is Crack House one of them?
What's that?
Is Crack House one of them?
Yeah, I believe so.
I love Crack House. They're freaking rule.
You said it's grindcore, right?
Yeah, it's got such wholesome ditties like "Tell your girlfriend's tits to stop staring at my eyes." Let's if I could read this. This emergency room is going to need its own emergency room. That's another one.
Yeah.
There's something about AIDS is on there. I'm pretty sure there's something about AIDS and smoking crack and just it's cool though. But I enjoy it. I thought it was more than the novelty I was expecting it to be. So it was a good one.
I was glad you brought up Brody King. I had him written down for some reason. I didn't say it, but yeah, I've never heard his band. Have you?
They're okay. I mean, I'm not really a huge hardcore guy, but they sound decent. They're not like garbage or anything like that. So I give him credit. He's actually got a halfway decent, somewhat serious band that he's in. He's not just doing it to promote his wrestling, and he's not doing vice versa. He's not in wrestling to promote his band. He's just doing both because he seems passionate about it. He actually he used to be in when he was in he's because he's a California guy. I think he's a Southern California guy, and he used to be in a group with Kevin Sullivan was the manager, and they were called War Beast, and it was him. It was Jacob Fatu, I believe, and it was a guy who I know very well from the Florida circuit, a guy named Joe Khabibbo. He used to wrestle as the Sheik. He did the Sheik gimmick for a while. He got permission to do that from Sabu. And then he switched up and he started calling himself Joseph Samael. And they came up with this whole cult gimmick, War Beast. So they had a good run out there in California, and my buddies actually got to work them a couple of times, and they said they were great to work with. But yeah, he did that, and then so it's kind of weird just to see Fatu on TV now and Brody King's on TV, and and then they got to work with Kevin Sullivan. But yeah, he's I enjoy him. Like I say, he's one of the modern guys who I enjoy his work. I think there's definitely he's somebody that could definitely be a upper mid card monster. I don't know so much if he's like, put the belt on him and build the company around him kind of guy, but he's definitely that guy where like you can, he's a monster and you can do stuff with him. And
is this the same Sheik who won the NWA title? Is that the same guy?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he used to wrestle as Joey Machete back in the day.
Okay.
He was in a team called the Market Crashers as Joey Machete. But before that, he used to be in a team called the Market Crashers, and it was him and his partner. They were NASDAQ and Jones were their names. And that's when I originally met them. I met them working when I used to do stuff when we worked with John Tenta. We did some shows I worked for him for a brief period of time.
Really?
And that's how I met them. Yep. Yeah. Okay. I'll tell that story. That's a fun one. So we were my buddies, Kevin and my roommate, Dave, we were all Malenko guys, and we were all working the indie scene down here. And we were on one of the local message boards, and we see a message about, hey, come to the school in Sanford, Florida, with John Tenta, School of Professional Wrestling, holding auditions for a show he's putting on. So we were like, well, why not? Let's just go there and go check it out and see what it's all about. So we drove all the way out there, go to Sanford, went there. He had the whole tryout deal. We go and we do that. Got done. And he liked us. He liked the fact that we came out and we didn't really have, he felt like we didn't have egos about it, that we just, because he had invited a couple other guys and they were like, well, I don't really think I need to try out. Either you want to book me or you don't, which is fair. But at the same time, a guy like him, you go to his school and you try. If he's asking you audition, you show him respect and go try out for his show. Right. So he liked us. He liked that we were Dean's boys. And we ended up working his first show. And the match was kind of wonky. It was a little weird and wonky to finish because we were supposed to do one thing. And they were going to involve a local sheriff in the match. And the guy who was supposed to be involved, he ended up pulling out of being involved in the match, but they still kept the sheriff involved in the match. And it turned into this whole weird finish of where my opponent, who's the heel, is getting choked out by the sheriff, but I'm standing there watching it, kind of gleefully egging him on. So it was just kind of like a whole weird thing. But we brought it back. We ended up having a match. That match is a whole story in itself, which I'm not going to bore you with because it'd probably take me 10, 15 minutes the way I talk to tell the story. But long story short, we pissed off a lot of well-known wrestlers in the business that night, and they brought us back the next month, and the whole idea was we were going to do this four-way tag match, which, shameless self-promotion, Moonshine Talkin. You can see the match up on my YouTube channel. And it's my partner, Kevin, and I. It's the Market Crashers. It's Prince Iakea and his tag partner. And it was supposed to be both John Tenta and Fred Ottman, Typhoon and Earthquake. But Fred used to run a strip club down here in Tampa, and he couldn't make it out that night. So he couldn't do the show. So Tenta did the show. He did the match by himself, and we ended up beating him. It's on film that I end up pinning Earthquake John Tenta in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. Not that matters because he could have killed me legit because the guy was the guy was not only a gigantic man, he was also legit sumo yokozuna.
Yeah.
And he walked on, I think, LSU or one of the Louisiana State football teams, and he was just a stud athlete and just a total badass. So that did it. But it was cool. And then, long story short on that, I had an incident with Ayakea because the two of us didn't really get along with each other. I don't. Do you remember Prince Ayakea, Trevor?
No, it's not ringing a bell.
He was in the '90s, late '90s. He was a mid-card guy with WCW. He was a television champion. He did a lot of stuff with Benoit and Steve Regal, Fit Finlay, all those guys. But he had a little run, and then when they started letting people go in WCW, he wound up on the Indies down here in Florida. He was another Malenko guy. He trained at Dean's back with Dean's dad and those guys. And I don't know, we were like, he was the earth sign and I was the water sign, and together we made mud. And that was kind of like how our chemistry was in the ring. We had worked a couple times, and the last time we worked, it didn't go well. And me and my partner ended up getting fired from John Tenta's promotion that night because he just was tired of us, and so that was the end of that. But he was another cool guy that I got to work with in the short time that I was in the business. But he was a very, very, very nice guy, and I don't really have any anything to do my John Tenta impression about. So I'll just do the John Tenta voice right now. I not really have a reason to do it. I'm just going to do it anyway. But he was a very nice man. Yeah, it's my John Tenta impression. But he was cool. He was a cool dude.
I just watched the Dark Side of the Ring about him. I don't know why it was called Dark Side of the Ring because, everyone loved him.
Yeah.
He was a story about how everything ended up. But
I think just the tragedy of it. That'd be about the darkness of it. But no, he was super.
They had to pad it out with the Shockmaster story, which wasn't even him. Just to
Shockmaster.
Uncle Fred. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was cool. Yep.
How many Dark Side of the Rings do they have out right now?
Jeez, it's like
too many.
3 seasons.
Oh, 3 seasons.
I haven't stacked up on my DVR, and I don't. 30 some maybe. I don't know.
Fuck. I guess there was a lot more dirt that didn't get uncovered.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think they're like I said. I think they're running out of material when they're doing John Tenta, who no one has a bad word to say about, and didn't get in trouble with drugs or anything. And it's just he died early. That was the sad story.
Oh, yeah. I had no idea who he was. I probably should.
Probably, it was before your time.
Yeah. Everything before 97 just kind of is a blur.
Yeah, he was 80s. He was an 80s guy. He came in with, I want to say Ultimate Warrior was in. He debuted. It was Dino Bravo, and Dino Bravo was like the Canadian strongman, and that was back when Ultimate Warrior was still not he wasn't a huge big name star back then, but they were doing doing a push-up contest, and Dino Bravo's there, and he pulls this guy out of the crowd, and it's Tenta, and he does push-ups on him. And then Ultimate Warrior gets in there and he starts doing the push-ups and he just squashes him. They just start beating the shit out of him. And then he does the earthquake splash and all that. Yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, funny story about that was that when I was a kid, in our house, because I got a few siblings, and one of the worst things that you could ever hear growing up in our house was earthquake splash, or you hear Yokozuna, and next thing you know, somebody's bony ass would be dropping on you from the top of the couch or from the
good times.
So it was always kind of cool that we used to do that at our house, and then eventually I got to work with him. And the one regret I have, I had a chance. I could have taken the earthquake splash, but I didn't get into the ring, and it was one of those things where in my mind it would have been perfect. My partner, he was doing something with him, and he's like taking these headbutts, and he's like doing the stumbling back and all that sort of stuff. And I always told everybody I should have gotten the ring, jumped in, tried to do a double headbutt. The two of us take a bump back, boom, have Tenta shoot us cross corner, throw one in, throw the other one in, Tenta come in with a splash, boom. The one comes out stumbling backwards, falls on his back, and then we do the old spot where then the next one comes stumbling out of the corner and falls face first and headbutts him right in the balls.
Right.
And we could have just kind of like set it up to where we were doing it in the middle of the ring and just kind of laid there and just had the two of us just kind of like laying there waiting, and he'd just have him just come around and then just squash us. But we didn't do it. So, missed opportunities and such. So,
well, guys, I hate to be a party pooper, but I'm freaking dying. I gotta go to bed, so I've been.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Hey, this
we forgot.
We didn't even get half the stuff we talked about, so we got a lot to do if we want to do it again.
Yeah, do a part 2 because you said it as one of the bullet points. You wanted to kind of rant about the Twitter age of wrestling, and
the podcast.
I really want to. I want to go on about that. So,
well, yeah, we'll do a part 2 for sure.
Cool, dude.
Hey, thanks, guys. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for anyone that tuned in too.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Scott, Trevor. It's a pleasure. Again, it'd be fun to do more of these things with people. It's nice to kind of, connect with people. You go doing like all the texting and the commenting on the YouTube and all that. Yeah, it's cool. No, I enjoy it. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys to tears and I didn't talk about anybody or too much. Yeah.
It's awesome to hear from like inside the business. So
yeah, as much of inside the business as I was, but I had my little run.
Well, you're way more inside than we were, so
yeah.
we like hearing it.
I certainly I could probably bore you with some more of my stories about the little bit of I know you're trying to go. I'll tell you one more because I was thinking about it when you were talking about it. You mentioned Kevin Steen.
Yeah.
Some of the worst gas of anybody who I've ever met in the history of the business. He
kind of gives that vibe.
He looks like that.
Yeah.
We were in Kentucky. We were in OVW, and we were going to one of their spot shows. It was all the students, and we were stuck in the van. And we were getting ready. We were doing something. We're all waiting for the rest of the guys to load in the van, and somebody was talking, and then it was just one of those deals where you're sitting there talking, and everyone's just talking, and then it's just, God damn it! He's just up there, and it's, dude, that is rotten. What is wrong? So I cannot think of this guy as being WWE champion or doing all these things and all these accolades and everything. I just think about the guy who stunk up the van in Kentucky. It's just like, but anyhow. On that delightful note.
Excuse me.
Yeah, not surprised.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And this is fun again.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
All right, Trev, Scott, have a nice night, guys.
Night.